Hey, Martin,
Oh, hey there.
did you know that I have Russian YouTube channel now?
Oh yeah, I did. I did
Hmm.
know that, actually.
It's pretty dope, honestly.
My spy network let me know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I had these people reach out to me a while ago, and they were like, hey, we want to translate your videos into Russian and make a Russian YouTube channel. And I've got a friend who did that, so I've been working with them. And just yesterday, I think, the first one went online. And I could not even pronounce the name of the video because
Yep.
I don't know how to speak or read Russian.
Yep.
It's one of those weird languages where you kind of feel like you should be able to read it, but then you're like, wait, there's a weird circle with a line through
it's
it.
misleading
and
because it uses similar characters, but in a massively different way, and then adds new ones.
Yeah, and some of these characters, there's a backwards N. There's some characters that look like Japanese characters almost. There's like a half of a block. So I can't read it, but it's pretty cool. It's a thing that exists. So I don't know.
That's the thing. If you're
the
a Russian,
beginning.
if you're a Russian listener
I know, right?
and you just
Well, if we have Russian
you
listeners
hate
to the
English,
podcast,
then
I think they can listen to. I mean, they could probably listen to all the English videos.
what if they just hate English though? They're just tired of listening to
That's
it.
true. Actually, that's a good question. Are you tired of English, Martin?
Uh,
I know you like to watch anime in Spanish and stuff. So,
well, I mean, I'm listening to it in Japanese. I'm just reading Spanish subs.
oh, reading Spanish subs. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot more common for me to find. It's on Crunchyroll.
I happen to know that Death Note has been dubbed in many, many, many languages. So if you happen to want to listen to an anime in Spanish,
Oh,
there's one for you.
cool.
I don't know if you ever want to watch that show again.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the twists are lost on me now. I've seen them.
Well, you've seen them, yeah.
So,
And I feel like you were telling me you liked the show, but it was one of those shows that put you in a funk because it's not a happy show
well,
or something.
no, not nearly as bad as like Black Mirror.
Okay. Yeah, Black Mirror definitely puts me in the same kind of funk.
I
Because
just
you
like-
watch the episode and you're like, this is sort of realistic and could happen.
I like shows that make me feel good. You know, I don't really like watching things in general. So why would I
agree.
watch something that makes me feel horrible?
Yeah, this is the reason that I don't watch Breaking Bad. For the longest time, I avoided watching Game of Thrones because I was convinced that it was one of those shows where nothing but bad things happen. And now that I've watched Game of Thrones, I know that that's not true for that show. But in Breaking Bad, there's almost nothing good that happens, at least that I've seen.
Money's
There's
good.
cool things that
A
happen.
lot of money happens.
I mean, and there's very well written and awesomely acted things that happen, but nothing ever really all that happy.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Sons of Anarchy. It's just crap across the board.
Yeah.
Bad
Life is
stuff.
horrible to show.
You know what is awesome though? We just pre-ordered
is it-
Switches.
Yeah, it's the Switch.
Let's switch
The
over to
Nintendo
this topic.
Switch,
I know, right?
specifically.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
Even though some of
Super,
those,
super good.
even though some of those translators were having a hard time last night,
Yeah.
I
What are you
was
gonna do?
pretty excited. I got to tell you, I wasn't really planning on pre-ordering it until
Traitor.
we watched it. Well, I'm not a Nintendo guy like you
I
are.
was going to pre-order it before it even had a name.
Well, you buy everything that Nintendo makes.
Yes, I do.
I'm
And
pretty
gonna-
sure if you were 10 years older, you
and I
probably
have
would have been
a-
watching
I have
their
a body pillow
buying.
of Reggie Fils-Aimé. I don't, but I'm going to look for one now.
People are going to believe that.
I hope I have one. I want to get one now.
If you don't own one, they're probably going to send you one now.
Good.
Just let anybody out there listening know. I mean, there's a P.O. box. I'm not going to say it on the air, but federal regulations require for there to be a P.O. box at the bottom of my emails. And if you want to send Martin a Reggie Fils-Aimé body pillow,
Yeah.
I can't stop you.
Well, if I had one, there would be pictures. So,
You'd drive around with it in the front
Yeah.
seat with the seatbelt on.
yep.
Make sure Reggie's all safe.
That'd be beautiful.
You got to make sure he's safe, you know? Can't be sending him through the front window if you get in a crash.
Yeah.
While dreamily staring into his eyes while driving,
Yeah.
which is something I wouldn't put past you. But yeah, no, I'm not a Nintendo guy. I own a Wii U and I own a 3DS, but I never had a GameCube, never had a Wii. So it wasn't like an automatic buy for me. But watching the press conference last night, seeing the especially the Super Mario Odyssey, holy
yeah,
crap,
that
that
looks
looks
cool.
fantastic. And even as like a guy who doesn't like narrative games with big stories, because I'm just very impatient with that kind of stuff, the Zelda game looks really cool.
Yep.
And it may be my foray. I gotta say, I was having fun playing Wind Waker, and I should probably start it up again.
Oh, yeah. How far did you get?
I got
Did you get any dungeons?
yes. I know I beat the one with the thing clamped onto the dragon's tail.
Okay. the first one.
I beat
Well,
this
it's the
like
first one after you get your
foresty
sword
one.
back.
There's like a foresty one, right?
Yeah, that's the next one.
And then I feel like something really bad happens. I don't even know, but I got a decent way into it, and I it's probably something I should just pick up again and do.
Yeah.
But you know, life gets in the way, and Overwatch gets in the way. So what can you do?
You could play less Overwatch
I could.
and more Zelda.
But look, Overwatch is just so good. It's just a perfect pick up and play and go into quick play and then get really mad because everyone's choosing Widowmaker and Hanzo and everyone wants to snipe. And then you ask yourself what's wrong with the world. And you realize that it's, I don't know, probably 12-year-olds who just play Sniper and Call of Duty.
All of that does sound enticing.
We got problems, Martin.
Yeah.
We got some lame superheroes, though. They have some problems.
Oh,
And they've
they're
asked
like
us about
college
these problems.
Oh, man.
College problems.
What a coincidence.
Job-related problems. Yeah, so they asked us some questions. They've come through us, to us through the ether or through various other mediums. And to give people a preview of the questions we're going to be going over in this week's episode, we're going to talk about how to manage and keep track of what you're studying, even if you happen to not get everything you plan to do done in a single day. We're going to talk about how you can email your professors, which I think will probably turn into a discussion about emailing people professionally in general. And also, we're going to talk about asking for letters of recommendation. So, first question, and I'm salty about this, Martin.
Uh-oh.
This list, heavy.com, they're on my crap list now, you know, because they put Squirrel
Call
Girl.
them out.
They put Squirrel Girl on their list of lame superheroes. This question comes from Squirrel Girl, but I happen to know that Squirrel Girl is not a lame superhero. She is, in fact, the most powerful hero of all time.
Her face is kind of creeping me out in that picture, though.
It is. I don't like this one.
I don't understand what I'm looking at, but
But you got me Squirrel Girl beats up the entire Marvel Universe book
yeah.
for Christmas. And I very much appreciate that.
That's because I know better than heavy.com.
Exactly, right? I love the overpowered
This is a
ridiculousness of
diss
Squirrel
track.
Girl. It's great.
To heavy.com.
Yeah, here we go. Put on a beat. Heavy.com sucks.
Freestyle.
Anyway, Squirrel Girl's question
Very
is, I get bored of my study schedule, so I've been trying to create a schedule in the morning based on basically what I feel like doing for the day. But if I do this, I end up neglecting certain subjects. So any ideas on either sticking to a less flexible plan or not leaving anything out?
All right.
Either or.
All right.
You know, first thing that comes to my mind is if you have a review process in place, you're not going to let stuff slip through the cracks. You know?
Like a once a week review process?
Once a week
or-
review. Yeah. And I think, you know, and I don't always do this. So, and to be honest, I don't always practice every single thing I preach on the podcast because that would be like 150 episodes worth of stuff to practice. But I think like the ultimate picture in my head of a diligent student who's supremely organized, right, is someone who has a weekly review process, but who also wraps up each day with just a really quick review, you know? So if you're going into a day and you don't want to create like a really strict time boxed study schedule where you're pulling from your week plan or from your planner, and you know exactly what you're doing. If you're just trying to kind of freestyle it and you're thinking, all right, I'm feeling like studying some math right now and maybe I'll do some history later. At the end of the day, just kind of take stock of what you did and compare it to your week plan. And at the end of every week, you're going to do a weekly review and you're going to look at all the exams you have coming up, all the homework that's due. You should have all those due dates written down in a task manager like Wunderlist. So you'd be able to look at your upcoming due dates. I think with Wunderlist, you can actually look at like 2 weeks in the future or 1 week in the future or something like that.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see, all right, I have a math assignment that's due in 3 days. I have a history exam that's coming up at next Friday. And I have a huge project in my programming class due in 3 weeks. What is my progress like on all of these things? What did I get done today? What do I need to change in the next days? As long as you're reviewing, you should be able to keep on top of everything you do, even if you're not being super strict with creating a plan at the beginning of every day and sticking exactly to it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Now, I've done a couple of things for
Okay.
this. One thing I used to do for language practice, because I was trying to practice my speaking, my listening, my reading all separately and make sure I was doing some of each.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I had those things out on my whiteboard, but you could just put it on a piece of paper or something if you want.
Yeah.
And I had those little colorful magnets you see in that video with my room. And I would,
yeah.
every time I would do a unit of study, 20 minutes of audio practice or 20 minutes of reading or something, I would put one of the magnets next to it. And then at the end of the week, I'd be like, oh, I did a lot of reading this week, but I didn't really do a lot of listening, so I could kind of see what I've been doing.
So for that, you weren't exactly following a plan based on assignments.
Nope.
It was more you were tracking the amount of time or practice you were putting into a certain area.
Don't finish, really.
Okay.
Now, as far as things you do finish, now, as I've recently mentioned on some episode, I'm sure, I'm writing out my daily schedule.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that I don't forget to do certain things, because if I get caught up in like weekly content, it's easy to let the bigger picture things slide by another week.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I've started setting out kind of a default class schedule, so to speak,
Mhm.
where I've got like, do for this time period during the day, by default, do some podcast research. For this time period, work on some web development stuff and things like that. So I've got a default schedule, and every day in the morning I write down, what are my goals for each of these blocks?
Yeah.
What am I going to do in this web dev block? What am I doing in this podcast block?
Mhm.
So therefore, I get a little bit of each topic, but I'm still being specific enough that I can actually accomplish something within that block.
Okay. So maybe one of the answers that we can give here is that it might not be such a good idea to simply study what you feel like and just do it really casually. Now, you don't have to create a time-boxed, step-by-step day plan where you move exactly from math and then you go to history, etc. You can do that if you want, and it might be helpful, but you could also do it the way that Martin's doing, where you just have goals for the day that are based on your week plan or based on your task management system that shows you your due dates, and then you work through those goals at your own pace and in the order of your choosing.
Yeah.
But I think it's essential to have some sort of review process where at the end of the day, you look at what you've done, and you move over to your week plan or to your task management system. Maybe you have both, and you check it off. So you kind of know, all right, this is the progress I've made. Here's how much is left to go, and here's how much time I have left to get those things done.
Yeah, and really I think a review process is kind of essential for basically any productivity system, because you can't know if it's working if you never double check.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Like,
And
it's essential.
I think it's very important to not be working out of your main task management system all day long. The one I use is Asana. We use Asana at College Info Geek because we've got several team members. I would probably be using Wunderlist or something different if it was just me. But I can go to my task thing here, and I can see on the schedule, I've got 4 tasks due today, and I've actually got about 10 that are overdue because of travel or general things slipping through the cracks. So I need to get in here today, and I need to reassign due dates for some of these things. I need to assess which ones are important, which ones are low priority, get all that kind of stuff reorganized. But on a given day, I'm not working out of this thing. I'm not like, all right, I just got this done. Now I'm going to go to the next thing in Asana. Like, no, it's too overwhelming. So I'll create a day plan either on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard, and that is what I look at as I'm going through the day.
Yeah, you'll pull it out so that you're not staring at this list of like 40 items for the future. You're just looking at, what am I doing right now today?
Yeah, exactly. Think about it as if you were an employee in a company. Like, as the employee, you're not looking at your manager's overall huge project management timeline to figure out what you need to do.
Yeah.
Your manager's saying, yo, Bob, I need you to code this thing and also get me a cup of coffee. And simple. Make the coffee, you code the thing, and then you check those things off and you ask your manager for more stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you personally have a manager side and an employee side, and you let the manager side do some work sometimes, but you spend most of your time in the employee mode where you're not worried about all the other things. So hopefully that answers Squirrel Girl's question. Much love.
Shout out to Squirrel Girl.
Shout out to Squirrel Girl, and Heavy.com can just keep its opinions to itself, you know?
I demand a redaction.
Not happy. Yeah, I demand a redaction. I want censorship in this case. We do have some other picks on this list, though, that are, I would say, more justified in calling them lame.
Okay.
So this next question comes from Gunfire. And he is a hero who can turn anything he touches into a gun.
That is very specific.
Yep.
I mean, I guess that could be cool.
Look at that orange.
But
you know what would make that orange better? If it were a gun.
So do they turn into things that look like guns, or do they just shoot like
guns?
Well,
I'm looking at the
orange,
picture
can you
here.
Squeeze it and it shoots seeds out at something?
I'm looking at the picture here, and he seems to be holding like a mallet, and the mallet just has like a beam coming out of it.
So they're like laser guns.
It must be a laser
Everything's
gun
a laser gun.
Yeah, it looks like he's also bulletproof. And his costume looks like a knockoff of Cyclops.
It does look like exactly
Kinda.
that.
Yep.
I mean, that's cool, but basically a lot of other things could do that without having a power.
I honestly wonder how many times over the course of comic book history that the comic book companies have just let kids send in ideas.
Oh yeah, they're just like, my kid had this great idea.
Because this just really sounds like something like 5-year-old Jimmy would send in. What about a guy who can turn anything into a gun? Like,
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
So like,
and then they're like, you know what?
Axe Cop, but for comic book.
Pretty
heroes.
much.
And Axe
We're on a
Cop's
tight
pretty dope.
deadline, Johnson. What about that kid Jimmy's idea? What, the gun guy? Yeah, put him in there. Get the artist on it. Stat.
All right.
We don't have time.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they clearly didn't have a lot since he basically just like, honestly, if you just cover up part of that, I might think it's Cyclops. It's close enough.
Yeah. See, I feel like there's a good way to do a power like this and a bad way to do a power like this. There's a terrible superhero movie called Sky High that I used to watch when I was a kid because my mom ran a daycare. Not really a good movie, but I thought one of the powers in that movie was pretty cool. There's like I think it's the villain actually. She's like a techno something where she just has the ability to create ridiculous technology out of really basic parts all the time. So it's not like being super smart. It's like just having a weird magical power to create high-tech stuff.
That's interesting.
And it was kind of a cool power, at least in the context of the movie, and much more imaginative than I can turn this orange into a gun.
Yeah, a gun's a very specific thing to be turning something into.
Yeah, I know, right? Anyway.
Well, yes, what does he need?
Gunfire's got a question, and his question, oh my gosh, I just clicked through a different thing in Asana because I was demonstrating Asana.
Oh, well, then it looks like his question is, how should you email your professors?
I feel like we could be very on the nose and straightforward about this question, but I want to take it in a different direction first. And so my initial answer for how you email your professors is more often than you think you should. And I say that because I think a lot of college students, and this could be something that high school students do as well. I don't think I ever emailed a high school professor or teacher, but it might be a thing that happens more often now. Or maybe people Snapchat their teachers. Yo, I'm going to snap this homework question. I'm going to snap my teacher. Yo, I'm going to be sick today. Huh. That's like the...
There's got to be somebody doing that.
That's the alternative to a doctor's note. If you want to be excused from class, you need to snap me a picture of yourself, and it better look convincingly sick.
Yeah.
The mom's in the background like, he has strep throat. Believe it.
That is a thing. There are enough people that somebody has done that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that people only email professors like most of the time when they need something. You know, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be gone. I'm going on vacation to the Bahamas. Can I please skip my finals? Or I missed class. What did we miss? Or, you know, what notes do I need? And we can talk about that all we want. But one of the things I think it's incredibly important to do for many, many reasons is to create a good relationship with your professors. Because number one, you're going to be more invested in your classes when you have somebody who you know. You probably respect them a little more when you know them. You're kind of hoping that they'll respect you. You kind of want to look good, make a good impression once you know them. And also, it's, and this is going to relate to our next question actually, when you know your professors, it's easier to ask for letters of recommendation. There's a higher percentage chance that they're going to pick you for maybe like a research opportunity, or if they happen to have a job that comes up and they know about, like they're going to think of you. And this doesn't have to happen just through interpersonal in the class interactions. You can do it through email. For instance, when I was a sophomore, I had a marketing class that I was going through. And occasionally I would just email the professor interesting marketing articles. I would just say, hey, I thought this was a really cool story that you might want to maybe bring up in class or something. The one I remember is back when Portal 2 was going to come out. They had this really weird secret website you could go to, and I'm trying to remember how exactly it worked. I think you had to play a lot of games in Steam, and like the more hours you played in certain Steam games, it would contribute to this thing where it would release Portal 2 a little early or something. So Valve, in like a genius move, engineered this crazy campaign where people were just buying a ton of other games on Steam and playing a ton of games, and all that was contributing to releasing Portal 2. Like, I think it ended up being like 2 days early or something. It wasn't crazy. So I thought it was interesting marketing, because how easy is it for them to say, all right, the actual release date is February 10th, but we're going to say it's February 12th, and people can unlock it by buying lots of games on Steam.
Yeah.
It was genius. And there was a bunch of other stuff to it. So I sent that to him. I don't know if he ever used it in class, but I do remember him replying and saying, hey, that was really interesting. So thanks for emailing that. And that just helped to build that relationship with that particular professor. So number one, think to email your professors at times other than when you need something.
Yeah, you can't always just be asking for something.
Yeah. Beyond that, how do you email a professor? What are some of the common pitfalls, things that make you look bad, that kind of thing, when maybe you do need something? One of the things that comes to my mind immediately is I know a lot of people will email and say, hey, I missed class this day. Did I miss anything important?
That hurts. Everything's important.
Exactly. Your professor.
Job. That's what they're doing with their life.
Even if it's a class.
Important.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if it's a class where you're just like, all right, I'm just getting this class for the grade. It's a required class for my degree or something. Your professor is spending 40 hours a week or more.
That's their life.
Teaching that.
Also,
that's their thing.
It still hurts to be like, yes, I know 90% of you don't even care about the thing that I'm dedicating my life to teaching, but you don't have to say it so directly.
Absolutely.
Could you pretend that you like what I'm saying so that I feel good about my life?
I know, right? So if you miss class, you would email them and you'd say, hey, I missed class on this day, and I'm wondering if I could come in maybe and talk to you about what I missed, or if there are any notes I can get. Don't make it seem like you're only just trying to get what you need for the test,
Yeah.
And possibly don't even talk to the professor. Maybe you could just ask a classmate to share the notes with you and to tell you what you missed,
Yeah.
I never wanted to come to professors looking bad. So I would try to do that with like classmates instead.
Yeah, so when you need something like that, it's a little thing, just notes from yesterday. Don't bother to waste the time of your professor if you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. A couple other things. Professors are generally very busy people. So don't write them a giant wall of text. You don't need to tell them your life story, Oh, I woke up and my ferret was actually running around my room and my dog tripped on him. And then my dog fell into me, and then I hit my head, and I had to go to the doctor. We stopped at Burger King, and I got food poisoning on the way there. So I'm sick today, and I can't, he doesn't care. Just say you're sick. If he's the kind of person who wants a doctor's note or an excuse, he'll tell you, But in general, I'm the kind of person who assumes, through experience, because I live this every day, I assume that professors are busy people who get way too many emails and don't want to deal with a huge long one. So I'm the kind of person who's going to cut to the chase. Dear Mr. Folger, my name's Thomas Frank. I'm in your Tuesday 3 p.m. marketing class, and I just wanted to let you know I'm not going to be able to make it this week because I have a job fair I need to go to, or I'm sick today. If there's anything I can do to make up, if there's anything I miss, I'd be happy to make it up. And if I could come in to your office hours next week to review or to get the notes or whatever, I'd love to do that. Real short and simple. They'll get back to you.
Yeah, and that's for everybody, not just professors, but email in general.
Absolutely. With email, keep it short. Don't try to be uber clever. And also realize that it may take them a little while to get back to you.
I think email is a horrible chore for most people. So the more you make them spend their time doing a horrible chore, the less pleasant they're going to feel.
Email's just this steady drip of obligation.
Yeah.
And it's like anything that's easy and fine, and I'm happy to deal with it when it's one, but when there's a zillion of them, they become overwhelming because it just is like you're looking at your inbox and it is a to-do list. So if every individual to-do is a giant wall of text, it's hard to parse, it's hard to figure out what the person wants. It just saps your willpower and you don't want to deal with it. So when I'm emailing a professor, if I want them to do something or if there's some action I need to take, I'm polite and I'm very to the point, and I make it as easy as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
And that's how I try to email anybody, but professors especially. And the third question is actually quite related to this in terms of dealing with professors. So this question comes from US number one.
Number one.
And it looks like this guy is a trucker, I think.
Oh, because that looks like kind of like a highway symbol.
He's a trucker man, and he's got a steel plate in his brain that lets him receive CB radio signals without needing a real radio. So his superpower,
he could just have a smartphone. Like
at all times, he is just constantly hearing in his brain, 10-4, good buddy. We're going to be stopping at the Phillips 66 to get a donut.
That's a curse, not a superpower.
I don't really know how he fights crime with that.
If there are evil truckers, he's going to know about it.
Yeah, it doesn't even say here what he did, what sort of crime he fought.
Like a sheriff? He's just patrolling the interstates?
Oh, there we go.
That's like it. That's the only thing I could think of that would be useful.
I do remember back in the 70s, for a really long period of time, I think stretching back maybe to the 30s, the government lowered the speed limits to like a kind of a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
So there was this trucker culture where truckers would use their CB radios. They would have this kind of watchdog network, and they'd all speed ridiculously because they're all getting paid by the mile, not by the hour. And so whenever they'd see a cop or something, they would warn each other with CB radios. So I could see if, I don't know, if US number one is actually some sort of sheriff, he can get the CB radio from the trucker spy network, and he's like, oh, I know where these guys are coming from.
That's basically, I don't know what else he's going to do against like a supervillain.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The supervillain has CB-related powers.
Something.
I don't think this guy's going to do anything against a supervillain. But his question is, how can I ask for a letter of recommendation? I've actually been out of school for a while, and I don't have any relationships with my professors.
That's unfortunate.
Which, that's a tough qualifier, because let's be honest here. A letter of recommendation is not just this magical thing that professors hand out. And you don't even think of this as a professor-student relationship. Think of this as a human-to-human relationship in which two humans have been in close proximity to each other. Maybe they've worked together. Maybe one has worked under the other, or the other one has supervised the learning of one of those people, or at least seen them do work, or seen them try really hard to learn something. A letter of recommendation is just a piece of paper that communicates one person's trust in the work of another, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know the person that you're asking for a letter of recommendation from, how can they honestly recommend you for anything?
What are they even going to write?
You know?
The language of the letter is going to be so generic. They're just going to be like, yes, I like Cindy. She is very good at her major and other interests.
Yeah,
Please
absolutely.
hire her. That's not even convincing. What are they going to write if they don't know you?
I had a debate with a friend of mine a while ago because his position on letters of recommendation was that if you have a friend who's going for a job, you should just like BS a letter of recommendation for them because they're your friend. Like, oh, I'll write you a letter or I'll give you a reference or whatever.
I don't think I'd do that unless I trusted that they're a good recommendation.
Yeah, and I had this, I don't know why he couldn't see it the way I see it. Maybe it's like some people just think the value of a friendship is worth lying over. But for me, when I'm recommending someone, if I'm giving them a reference, or if I'm writing a letter of recommendation for them, or if I'm calling in to talk them up, I'm putting my reputation on the line, because the person that is going to hire them is now trusting me. I'm the one that's putting my butt in the line for that person's work. I'm vouching for them. And as somebody who I don't employ other people. Like, you're not my employee, but you work for me. Kayla works for me, Anna works for me. Ransom writes articles for me. If somebody told me that, oh yeah, Martin's awesome, he's so good, and you know what? He can actually design, and he is like a super motion graphics designer. He can make Pixar quality videos for you.
I can
and
do
I
that.
make a hiring decision off of that.
I can't do that.
And then it turns out Martin has literally no clue how to even open Maya.
I don't even know what that is. So
Exactly,
you got
right?
me. You got me.
All right. So number one, now I'm in a pinch because I've just made a hiring decision. I've brought this person on, and now I
That's
have to be like,
expensive,
oh, you guys lied to me. I just spent money, wasted time, and now I have to fire you, and I'm going to feel bad. But number two, the person who recommended Martin to me, I'm like, what the heck, dude? I no longer trust your recommendations because clearly you were just
You just made stuff up.
making stuff up for a friend of yours. So you threw me under the bus, and now I don't even know if I like you because you lied to me.
Yeah. Hey, and number
You know?
3, Martin's hurting now because my resume says I just got fired on day 3 because I didn't have any idea what I was doing.
Exactly. So in regards to the qualifier here, you need to have relationships with your professors. Now, let's like paint a scenario here. Maybe you didn't have an amazing relationship, like friendship wise, with a professor, but maybe you've been at a school for not a ton of time, and your professors does remember the work you did. Maybe you
Yeah,
did
maybe
really
you
well
did
in
really
their
well.
class, or maybe you turned in a really stellar project. If you honestly believe that you did that, then you could send a nice polite email saying, hey, Professor Folger, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Thomas Frank, and I took your class back in 2012. And I turned in a project that got an A, and I was wondering if you would be willing to write a letter of recommendation based on that work, because I'm going for this position, and I think that your recommendation would be really helpful.
Yeah, based on
In that
that work
case, you know?
specifically, so that they don't have to like pull some nonsense about how
Yeah.
you saved burning kitties from a fire. Why are they burning? I didn't want them to be burning. You're supposed to save them before they burn. Whatever.
I'm not really. You're
I
not
guess
getting my recommendation,
You're not a very
Martin.
good superhero either, I guess.
I'm only going to recommend you if you can save the kittens before they burn.
Yeah, but if you don't even have that, one professional person in your old university or even high school that might know you a little better would be an advisor or a counselor of some form.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think the default for most majors is that you see your advisor a lot. You plan through your college, you do stuff. So inherently, they might know a little more. Maybe they could write the letter.
Okay, so a couple other things. If you don't have relationships with your professors, realize that your professors are not the only people who can write you a letter of recommendation. If you have an employer that you worked for that you have a good relationship with, or even coworkers. And actually, I think if you look on my LinkedIn, I have recommendations from people I just worked with at the IT center at Iowa State.
Oh, yeah?
They weren't above me, they were just coworkers, you know? And honestly, a lot of times when you're applying for a job, the person that's hiring you doesn't know the relationship every single time, unless, you know, the person who's writing the letter outright states it. And a lot of times they won't care, you know?
Yeah.
If Martin's coworker at Flying Hippo Web Development was like, hey, Martin was awesome. He set up these servers for us. He automated so many processes and he made my job 10 times easier. I do not care that that guy wasn't his supervisor.
Yeah.
Like, you're a dude who's putting in work 40 hours a week and you say Martin helped you make your job way easier. I don't automatically think you're just BSing me because you were his friend and coworker. And I have written Martin recommendations. And actually,
Got one on LinkedIn, actually.
yeah, on
It's
LinkedIn,
right on there.
if you go to his love letter site that he made for that job, it's iwantaflywithhippos.com. It was a website that he set up entirely for wanting to get hired at that job. You'll see a recommendation from me. It doesn't matter that Martin and I were best friends because you legitimately did a fantastic job coding the CIG website, and I was incredibly satisfied with the work as somebody who needed the work done, not as a friend.
Yeah.
So if you have a friend you've worked with, ask them to write a letter of recommendation from the perspective of the person who was working with you, not just from your friend.
Don't have them
he's my
sign
friend."
like,
Yeah.
sincerely, Tom's best bud.
Yeah, exactly. You know, have them put their name. I think there are situations where you might push this too far. Like if you're going to use your mom or something, there better be a darn good reason why you're using your mom.
Yeah.
Like maybe your mom is the CEO of a huge company and you worked for that company or something and you did a fantastic job, sure. But if you like trimmed your mom's hedges and she's like, oh yeah, Jimmy's a great worker. He's got such a good work ethic and
My
he doesn't
son
even drink that much
never
lemonade when I make
forgets
it.
my birthday.
Yeah.
Never. He's got a great memory, and I think you can trust him for it.
Yeah, so you can push it too far, but you still can use people you're friends with, people you've worked with, coworkers. They can all be potential sources of letters of recommendation.
Or maybe people you volunteered with. So go out and get some volunteer experience.
Yeah,
Use
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, if you need people who recommend you, go out and do things worthy of being recommended for and build relationships with people in those areas.
Yeah.
You know, you can volunteer in a weekend and build some relationships.
Hey, people like it when you do free work for them.
Yeah.
It does good things.
Freshman
So
year.
you don't have to pass a lot of interviews.
Mm-hmm. Freshman year, I volunteered with a group, and we went out and winterized a bunch of homes in the town that I went to college in. So we went in, we put basically, it was like basically thick saran wrap over the windows
Yeah.
to keep the cold from getting out. Did a few other things, and I met a bunch of people who do that. And personally, I never had to ask those people for letters of recommendation, but I worked with them. We were together. We were doing work together. So I think those people would have been happy to do that. Now, regardless of who you're asking to write the letter, there are some things you should do. Number one, don't write the letter for them and just ask them to sign it. That
Do
looks
people
sleazy.
do that?
Yes.
Oh, don't do that. Clearly don't do
And
that.
I think sometimes this comes from a place of good intentions. Like, oh, this professor's busy.
You're
I bet
saving
you
them
if I
effort,
just
but
save them the effort by writing the letter and
You're
asking them to sign
kind
it.
of lie, though. It's,
Exactly. You know, let them do it in their own words, but give them as much information as you can. So tell them what the job is, what company you're applying with, or if it's a research position, or if it's a PhD position, like tell them where the school is. Ask them to talk, like if you could talk about this particular project I worked with you on, or one of the things I know they're looking for in this position is the ability to do great research, or the ability to solve problems quickly. So if you can think of a time when I solved the problem quickly, or I was able to come up with a solution on the spot, that would be amazing if you could mention that in the letter recommendation. If you can jog their memory about something that they've done with you or that they saw you do, then they're going to have a much easier time writing that letter. You know, if you're just like, can you please write a letter of recommendation? And that's all you say, they're going to be like, you know.
Yeah, I have like 80 students
They might know.
every day.
If Martin's just like, yo, I need a letter of recommendation, I could probably come up with it because I work with him every single day. But I could tell you, even in that relationship, if you were able to tell me exactly what you needed it for and the qualities that you think would be best for me to talk about, I would be so much.
Yeah, and I think the letter will help me a lot
more able
more
to do
if I directed you in something specific to how it's going to be used.
Yeah, exactly.
If they go and they write like 30 sentences about how you're great at math, but that's the opposite, that's not at all what you needed.
Exactly, yeah.
Then
So always remember, relevance is key. Be specific, and also be polite and be very thankful for them to do it, you know? And if they do it, if they say yes, make sure you send them a follow-up email to say, thank you so much for the letter of recommendation. If you happen to get the job, or you land whatever position you're going for, or you win in whatever way you're trying to win, follow up.
Yeah,
Tell
let
them,
them
hey,
know.
I just wanted to let you know that I got the job. Thank you so much
Hey,
for
they're
that
gonna
letter.
feel
It really
good.
helped. You know, tell them it helped. And that's just going to continue to strengthen that relationship. They're going to feel really good.
they're going to feel like
You
they're a life changer. And
Absolutely.
that's awesome. You're going to brighten their day. And buy them a
Always,
cup of coffee. Why not? I don't
Yeah.
know.
You know, you don't have to be constantly trying to do this, but when you think of it, never pass up an opportunity to just kind of stoke the fires in an old relationship you have, because you never know when that's going to be useful or when you can be useful, you know?
Out of context, that's horrible advice. Just don't be afraid to stoke the fires of an old relationship.
Yeah, all I'm saying is like
get it.
you should like your ex-girlfriend, you should
heard
just
it here
text her
first.
good morning
Text
with a
all
winky
your
face
exes.
every morning. That's fine.
I'm just stoking the fires. Why are you mad?
Yeah, tell your current girlfriend, you know,
Don't do that.
you never know when an old relationship could turn into something great.
This is horrible advice. Never follow this last part.
Okay, romantically, yeah, maybe a bad idea.
Professionally, that's a pretty good idea. Just don't twist it. Don't cut that out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I
Nice.
think we need to close this dumpster fire out before it gets any worse.
Yeah, there are kittens in here.
The kittens are burning. Damn it, we should have called Squirrel Girl.
All right. Do they have the short link
It's
to
the
this
girl
episode?
for the job. No, I don't think so. Okay, short link to the show notes for this episode. I know Martin mentioned his study area video that we did, where you can. I don't even remember what you were talking about, but you
I
did
don't
mention
know.
it. So that
Oh,
at
my
least
whiteboard
whiteboard,
and magnets.
magnets, all that kind of stuff. So that stuff will be linked up. We'll have all the other resources that were relevant or that we mentioned in this episode linked over at the show notes. And you can find those over at cigpodcast.com/142. This is the second episode in the CIG podcast history with a number 42 in it.
Oh, that's
It's
fancy.
a good number, you know, for those of you
Looking
poopy
forward to
fruits who
242.
know where your towels are. And by the way, if you are listening to the show and you're thinking to yourself, man, you know what I would just love to do after listening to the show? I would love to find some awesome resources that could help me save money or study more effectively or be more productive. We've got a huge collection of all of our favorite stuff. Productivity tools, learning tools, physical gear we use like backpacks and
Books.
whiteboards and stuff.
That's my favorite.
Essential books. All of that's over at collegeinfogeek.com/resources. So check that out. Martin just added a brand new resource sorting feature. So if you go over to the page and you're like, I want to see only things related to saving money, click money and bam, all the money stuff.
Trying to save your scroll finger.
Exactly, right? Scroll finger paralysis is one of the most common afflictions for podcasters trying to advertise their resources pages. So
Yeah, it hurts me a lot.
exactly. So we developed this custom built solution to save your finger. We've also got a college packing guide. So if you happen to be going off to college anytime soon, you can check that out. And that's it. I'm distracted because I think the garbage truck outside is somehow conjuring a tornado.
Well,
That's what it sounds like.
there was the dumpster fire we were talking about, so
Maybe
they're
the
here to
garbage
fix it.
truck took away the dumpster fire.
Maybe.
I hope so.
We're good now.
All right. If you want to support this show, there is a link on the show notes page to rate and review the show over on iTunes. That is a great way to help bump this show up the charts over there, which helps more students find it, and we massively appreciate any reviews we get. So thank you so much if you do that. And that's all we have for this episode. So once again, thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.